The planetoid, now home to Base 3 under the command of General Spears, was initially conceived as what people within the company often colloquially referred to as a shake-and-bake colony, and a self-sustaining refuge. The atmosphere plant was never going to produce a surface nitrogen oxy mix thick enough so unaugmented humans could use it for breathing purposes unless they crawled into the bottoms of deep craters. True, the planetoid was big enough to hold some gases down with its feeble gravity, but the term terraforming was something less than exact in this case. The civilian colony was here because there were a vast number of underground caverns that could be sealed tight, filled with air, and used either as shelter or to grow enough food to sustain a permanent population. Once the tiny world became self-supporting, there were plenty of uses for it: expanded military bases, mining, an escape-proof prison. It was to those ends the terraformers worked. What the atmosphere plant produced was, save for venting, pumped into the ground. General Spears commandeered the terraforming colony to use it as a test site. He wanted to acclimate to human authority. With his specimens at the ready, Spears commenced his experiments and had expendable human test subjects to fulfill these scientific endeavors. He would learn the behavior of the alien queen and how she controls her army. An army Spears believed he could someday command himself, and use against the xenomorphs plaguing the Earth. The idea of having a xenomorph army appealed greatly to Spears, and his overwhelming admiration of the species was no secret. Goddamned efficient bastards, he describes them as. Just what a commander in the field needs. You could hatch your own army in a few months, and as long as one of them stayed alive, you could start over again when those got killed. The colonists were told that a new strain of virulent bacteria had been found, a byproduct of the nascent terraforming process. Spears used the ruse as an excuse to seal the colonists into separate quarantined cells. Major Powell, who would go on to form an alliance with Hicks and share these details, noted that all of these experiments were recorded in the base logs, which had commenced once the hosts were retrieved from the colony. Powell explains, "There were 168 civilian terraformers. Men, women, children. Spears gave them to the aliens. The air plant is automatic at this stage, you see, so the people were redundant. The lessons began almost immediately. He forced the queen to watch as he burned its children. As the sessions continued, I'm not sure what was more frightening, Spears and his method, or the fact that the alien queen seemed to understand them. He wanted to make these things into soldiers. He wanted them to follow orders like any other grunt. There were missteps along the way, but Spears dealt with them as he dealt with any extraneous interference. He's been feeding the experimental subjects all kinds of chem the scientists say might have some effect on the things. We don't know if it's working or not. The body chemistry of these creatures is astounding. We've done some conditioning exercises with the Queen. She doesn't appear particularly concerned with the fate of the individual drones. We've killed them, and she doesn't display distress in any way that shows. But if we threaten or destroy any of her eggs, she becomes very agitated. It seems to work, and the Queen controls the drones. We aren't sure how. Some kind of telepathic or extremely low-frequency radiopathic waves, something. We've put a single human subject in a chamber filled with alien drones and given him a single egg and blowtorch with which to threaten it, the Queen watching, and none of the aliens touch the man. The Queen has learned to obey the General. Spears started training her like a dog, used his cigar lighter. He'd have a trooper with a flamethrower roast an egg while the Queen watched. After she calmed down, he'd put a human into the testing cage with her. When she went for the bait, he'd pop the cigar lighter on and hold it next to another egg. The Queen picked up fast. You could leave a man in with her and a dozen drones for hours, and none of them would touch him. She's not stupid, the Queen. It seems odd, though, that the Queen will sacrifice the drones without a second thought, but she'll obey Spears to protect the eggs. But she controls the drones, telepathically, empathically. We don't have the sophisticated gear to be sure exactly how, but it isn't with sound or odors or any visual signals we can detect. We've run tests where the drone was a kick away from an airtight chamber. No possible way it could see or hear the Queen, and Spears made it do what he wanted. Though Powell had witnessed this experimentation firsthand and had observed General Spears' behavior in front of the xenomorph specimens, muttering to himself, uttering one clear word: perfection. The true extent of the General's obsession had not yet fully been comprehended. Perhaps the most disturbing result of these experiments is that Spears himself believed to have been learning from the Queen's method to telepathically command the Hive. He looked over his specimens, practicing his own mental will over them. He put his hands on the thick plexiglass. It was cold to the touch. The alien inside didn't move, but he imagined it could feel him, was aware of him, even in its suspended state. "Mark me," Spears thought at it. "I'm your master. You live or die at my whim. Obey and live, disobey and die." In this series, I'm recounting the Earth War as depicted in the Aliens comic series. The events are explored as originally published, despite certain names, locations, and other events having been altered over time. For more on the Earth War, you can check out the Accounts of the Earth War playlist on the end screen, and stay tuned for the latest videos. As always, I'd like to offer my sincere thanks for you watching today. I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and you can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. A very, very, very special thanks goes out to our WEYLAND executive, EmYarUk, part of the Patreon Hive. I'd also like to thank our Hive's queen, Lady Anne. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.